Edwards.
Here.
Councilmember Joe. Councilmember Aaron Vino.
Here.
Councilmember Sheena Hickson has to be excused tonight. Councilmember Candace Machado. Leah Scott. Here. Town Treasurer Lexi Erickson.
Here.
Chief of Police Mike Thompson.
Here.
Fire Chief Leo Lawson.
Here.
Public Works Interim Director Robert Llewellyn.
Here.
Town Clerk Janelle Underwood, and resident citizens.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda? So moved. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, item number 1, consent agenda. Approval of the regular meeting minutes for September 28th, 2020. Approval of business licenses, Prime Electric LLC and Ruby Electric LLC, and the approval of bills. Any discussion? Motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, appointment of the Public Works Director and oath of office. As many know, we held interviews for the Public Works Director. We had a lot of very talented candidates apply. Made a very hard decision for the interview panel. In the end, I think we came to a decision, and I would like to, very happy to appoint Paul Hansen as the new Public Works Director. Have any discussion? Do I have a motion to approve Paul as the Public Works Director?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We want to do the oath now. Paul, if you'd like to come forward, please, and take your oath.
I'll have you raise your right hand and make this sound to the name here in Public Works Director.
I, Paul Hansen, do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Wyoming and the ordinances of the town of Evansville, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Public Works Director with fidelity and to the best of my knowledge and ability, and that I have not paid for or promised to pay or contribute, either directly or indirectly, any money or other valuable thing to produce or to procure my appointment or election, except for necessary and proper expenses expressly authorized by law, that I have not knowingly violated any election law of the state or procedure it to be done by others on my behalf, that I will not knowingly receive, directly or indirectly, any money or other valuable thing for the performance or non-performance of any act or duty pertaining to my office other than the compensation allowed by law, so help me God.
Just sign right there. And I'll just authorize. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Congratulations, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right, item number 3, approval of the grant drawdown request, the coronavirus relief grant.
Mr. Mayor and Council, brought before you tonight is grant drawdown request number 1. This is for the Wyoming Coronavirus Relief Fund grant that we had submitted for back last summer. We had submitted for expenses of $42,746, and this is to pay for wages of employees that were working out of the Emergency Operations Center, as well as personal protective gear, attorney's fees. So it's brought before you tonight for approval, authorizing the mayor and the clerk to attest to the grant drawdown request number 1.
Any discussion? Do I have a motion to approve the drawdown request?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 4, approval of expense for abatement of property. I'll have asked the chief to come up and discuss this a little bit with us, but I asked him to put this on the agenda. I think it's important that we look at this this property and properties like this are a hazard to the community. It's my and, danger for bringing in vermin. Chief?
Move the microphone around. Mayor, Council, last year, Fire Chief Paulson and myself started a process, and as you're aware, in our town codes, we have certain ordinances and stuff where we've adopted through both the county and us certain things to talk about abatements of dangerous buildings, and through that, we have a property in town that got condemned through the court. The defendant on this particular property did not abate the nuisance after the fire chief and myself gave a notice. Our town attorneys filed on behalf of town through the district court, and we have a court order that was given to us in late December of last year. So with that, the abatement has not taken place. We're hoping that the property owner was going to take care of this, but they have not. So within our town ordinance, there is a provision for us as a town to abate these dangerous buildings. And essentially how it works is just once we have the court order, we can pick a contractor or somebody to abate said property. We can send a bill then to the property owner if they do not pay the town back for the cost of the abatement. At that point, our town clerk would file a lien on the property until the town is paid for it. So I brought forward to the mayor in our last staff meeting about this property. I reached out to several folks who deal with property cleanup in a bid process, and because it's not something that was budgeted for when we did our budget, Mayor said let's bring it to you guys for approval to move forward. And we have several of these around town. This isn't the only one that's being worked on. And obviously these ordinances are there because our interest is protecting our community. We have structures that are inhabitable, and you have rodents and critters and all those things that go in there that become fire hazards. And so we have two bids. One was given to us by Recycled Materials. Their cost is about $9,800. We got one from Brutil Construction, who does this type of abatements. Theirs is just for the trailers that be abated on this particular property, not including the asbestos, is $83.85, where the asbestos abatement side of it, they're estimating between $6,500 and $9,000 on their bid. So that would be just shy of $20,000. And Recycled Material is doing the $9,800 to include the abatements of asbestos out of the two bids that I received.
My understanding this is for 2 trailers, is that correct?
2 trailers. There's a particular lot that has a trailer that sits on the south edge of this particular lot, and then there's one that sits along the alley in the backside, and both of them Fire Chief also and I have looked at. Most of the condemnation stuff starts actually with the Fire Chief, and then there's the side of the PD that comes into this. So that's my understanding for you today.
Thank you. Discussion?
So are we sure that there's asbestos, or is that just in case bid?
It's a just in case. The trailer's old enough, there's a very good chance that there's asbestos in it. Say the Recycled Materials, they've got that included into it. We're in their 9,800. Why they're different than the other, I can't answer that one.
Do they have, Recycled Materials have much experience doing this sort of thing?
Yeah. Janelle actually can speak more to that. Is it 14 that they pulled out of the Aspen?
Well, it's brutal that pulled 15 out a few years back, but I know Recycled Materials has done work all over the Casper area and probably beyond. He's been around for quite a while. Pete Peterson is his name.
I know it was an unbudgeted item, but I felt it'd be more detrimental to the town to just ignore the problem than deal with it.
Yeah. I would agree.
My thought was, for the closest of the cost, recycled materials at $9,800, especially if there's a high likelihood we're gonna see asbestos, is better choice of the two, potentially less than half if we do run into asbestos.
Yeah.
There's always a chance that, those costs can be increased down the road, obviously, that's the best.
When Brutal Construction removed 15 trailers in the Aspens a few years back, about half of those came up positive for asbestos in them. I think it's, can be found in the flooring as well as in the roof. So chances are, given the ages of the two homes, there's asbestos.
So that recycled material bin includes dealing with asbestos.
That's what it says here.
Do I have a motion to move forward with the abatement?
So,
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Chief. Item number 5, cancellation of the December 28th council meeting. It's going to be a busy week with the holidays and everything going on, so if the council so desires, we will forego that meeting. Usually a little light at the end of the year.
yeah.
I have a motion to cancel the December 28th meeting. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, item 6, public comments. Have any public comments?
I just have a quick question. With
Yes,
the trailers that are condemned, do you guys ever do training by burning and firefighters and that sort of thing? Is that something that could? Oh, no.
That's a good question, but for us to just burn the trailer down for training, it still has to be gutted to get.
You've got to make sure everything's okay.
Because you have
Okay.
to, we would have to permit it through DEQ and the EPA.
Oh,
and
okay.
it would
Bigger
be-
than just taking them down, okay.
It's
never
bigger
mind.
than just lighting them out.
Oh, I know. We can get together and take care of that.
And some of the trailers we're working on currently, we wouldn't want to use for training.
Okay.
Are people living in those trailers?
The ones we've done so far.
So far, no, they can,
Just abandoned?
wouldn't say they're abandoned, they're just not being lived in.
Okay.
And certain utilities have been disconnected, and because of the age of the trailer, the utilities can't get reconnected because of codes and things like that.
Well, my understanding is since they've been condemned, they couldn't be inhabited.
So is it just the trailers on there, or is there like a house and then the trailers are just kind of?
It's a mobile home lot, so.
Oh,
it's-
okay, okay.
Yeah, so it's just trailers on the mobile home.
That was all I had.
Do you have any other public comments? Please state your name and address for the record.
Rhonda Steiba, I live on Bozeman Trail here in Evansville. I just wanted to bring a few things up. I have passed out copies of everything that I brought up, but I did bring it tonight, so if it can't be answered tonight, then that's fine, I just wanted to bring it to your attention. If the mayor could please tell the people how in the town the reading for the ordinance for the campers are currently as you read them.
I will say that I spoke on this earlier and I was mistaken. You know what I said earlier, when I went back and reread the ordinance, the way I read the ordinance is that campers can be placed on a city street for no more than 7 days out of a consecutive 30-day period. So out of a 30-day period, no more than 7 days on the street.
Okay. The next thing that has been brought to my attention through the public is where are we in the handicap accessibility to both mailboxes that we have for the residents?
I believe that's something that we're really looking into. That's going to be, it's not a quick and easy fix. I mean, potentially we have to cut out the concrete and re-pour concrete. So I think we're exploring options at this point in time to determine what our best course of action.
Okay. And where are we at purchasing or coming up with the different areas of the lines in town for our roads to be permanent as they don't stay white or yellow for a very long period of time?
That's another one I can say we're exploring options. I know I've spoken with Public Works about it. Problem is that the paint just wears extremely quickly. My understanding is we've tried multiple different kinds of paint so far, and a few weeks is what we're seeing out of them. I know this has been a problem throughout. I know Casper's actually gone to a different thing where they're actually grinding the road down and laying a tape,
So thermoplastic.
thermoplastic tape down. So we're exploring that option as to what it would cost, and potentially do a test of that on a section of road here in the springtime. But we've got to determine, that's a special piece of equipment, it would have to be utilized. So we'll have to look at that and then look at the cost analysis to determine if that's a feasible option for the town. Right now, the only option we came up with was to repaint everything every few weeks, which I don't think is a sustainable option.
This one is for the, as the community has brought to my attention of people still driving on their phones. Can you address that, please?
I can. If you don't mind, I'll take over your mic there. So in your question, we passed an ordinance back in March for hands-free. Shortly after that, our COVID pandemic took place. So our first month and a half to 2 months of that wasn't really, we were trying to limit our contacts. Since then, we've stepped up quite a bit. We've had over 50, closer to 60 stops just for hands-free from officers within the department. Prior to the start of this month, I have to do an end-of-month report for every body. And so I did a comparison March 1st last year through October 1st this year, or last year versus the same time frame this year, to compare our crashes, because when I started this process about hands-free, the idea is to reduce our crashes. So in that comparison, when we take just the hit and runs where people basically, somebody crashes into somebody's car, leaves, and we're never able to find that vehicle, we're down 53%. For crashes that we're responding to or both parties are still on scene, we're down 83% comparing last year versus this year. How much of that's tied to hands-free, it's kind of hard to say right now. There are significantly less people on their phones in town. Understand that it's like speeding. Just because you post speed signs up doesn't mean everybody's going to automatically abide by said speed limits, and there's always people that are going to break it. Or like a stop sign, there's some people that are going to run a stop sign. We can't catch everybody. So, for instance, sometimes officers are headed to a certain call. We'll see people on their cell phones, but we're not in a position to stop and say, hey, you can't do that, give them a citation warning, because say the town attorney's called and says, hey, I just got a crash, so we need to go to the crash. Sometimes in the world of traffic enforcement, it's not safe to turn around or stop somebody because you have 3 or 4 vehicles behind them when you see them, and the risk to the public to make 3 or 4 vehicles pull over for somebody on a cell phone is not worth putting everybody at that risk. So we are definitely actively enforcing it. There's a notice with people that we're talking about it. Just understand we can't stop and catch everybody.
Well, I have you up here. I know that it was spoke about the dog park in the near future that was put in with the ordinance of our new community officer and animal control officer. Can you enlighten me on where we are with that, please?
That's probably a 2-part question. So when we did the animal control ordinances, as we adopted our own animal control here, it was built into our ordinance to have a dog park. Understanding that we now have that, it takes steps to get to a certain area. And we started with putting the language in there, but we didn't budget for, because it takes money to construct a dog park. And with the COVID concerns and how, the uncertainty of the future is going to affect the economics, we didn't want to budget for building something that would maybe cause problems with, services such as fire and ambulance, police and public works and those kind of things. So that's one step moving towards it. Now that the language is in there, as we move into our next budget, I think that's where we're going to start having the conversation about where do you want to put it, how much money is going to be needed. Is it going to be solely on the town government to fund it, or is it something that we can take donations for? And those are discussions that we'll start having towards the first year. So we're working there, but it takes time to get there.
Thank you. And I would like to know for the emergency exit, from what I understand, where are we at?
The emergency exit was moving along very well. Looked like we were going to be breaking ground in the spring. Recent developments may have slowed us down a little bit. I know we've asked for some comments from the leasees up there in the area, who has made some requests that the town will have to review. So we're looking into that right now. So our fingers crossed, we're still shooting for breaking the ground in the spring. But 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We have to address all the issues to get us there, but that's still currently our focus.
Okay. And the last thing I would like to bring up is about the camper and the RV ordinance. I have presented you with 3 possible options. The one that I am most wanting to push is from November 1st to April 1st, that there are no campers, utility trailers, horse trailers, motorhomes, recreational vehicles, trailer vans, campers, snowmobile trailers, or enclosed trailers on the roads because of plowing and emergency services.
I don't know that a moratorium on absolutely not ever is really likely. I know I have reached out to Public Works about the plowing and how much that would get in the way of plowing, which my understanding is as long as they have a good 8-foot section, plowing's not going to be an issue. But then we live in Wyoming, so snow drift, things like that would be an issue. But we do still have potential hunting, so I don't think you can say never ever. But my thought is I've looked at a lot of different aspects of this. A lot of people have come forth as to, yes, park trailers, no, we don't. A lot of components of the amount of room left in the street, as well as the sidewalk has come into play. I've gone back and forth on this. One of the things that I was going to bring to the town is potentially us holding public hearings. If we could schedule and put some time out and really give an opportunity for the public to come in, provide all their input, and then council can kind of take all of that input and guide it towards specific ordinance.
All right. Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, that was a lot of me talking. Does anybody have any comments on that before we move on?
So I need to clarify, did you say Public Works said it would not be a problem to plow snow with trailers parked on
Correct,
the
as long
street?
as they had, my understanding was an 8-foot opening in the road, they would not impede their plowing
So
operation.
where does the snow, I don't mean to sound stupid, but where does the snow go when they plow? Against the trailer or in the middle of the road?
That entirely depends on which section of street that we're plowing.
Okay.
We've actually sat down this last month and discussed different possible ways to move snow. For the most part, everything was going to be pushed to the side of the road. We are going to try something different on Curtis Street in between 3rd and 5th. The goal there is to remove the snow entirely. So there are sections in town where we can push the snow to the middle of the road, where the roads are a lot wider, and we really don't have the vehicles in that parked on the side of the road.
So have we ever considered if there's, say, 5 inches of snow, then you need to clear your stuff away so the snowplows can come through? I know in different towns in the state, they do that, you know, if there's this much, it's a snow removal route. I don't know. I just know that if there's trailers and stuff parked on the streets and you plow to them, the snow stays there forever. So the trailer can't move anyway. Then you've got ice. When it melts in the road. Then you got more ice. I don't know. I just.
And that was one of the thoughts, kind of a tweak to what Rhonda had brought up, was if there was some sort of leeway there where there was a certain time period, so hunters could have a couple of days, have their trailers on there, but not necessarily leaving them all winter long.
Right.
So I think those are some of the options that we potentially want to explore, but really I think we need the citizens' input and get everybody's thoughts and opinions in there so that we can carefully direct it. Right now, most of the trailers are off. It's winter time, so going into winter, most people don't have their trailers and leave them out over the winter time anyway. which ordinance prohibits at this point in time. So I didn't feel it was something that we needed to rush at right now. If we take our time, get everybody's input, draft something here for the spring when people are wanting to get out and use the stuff again, maybe we can have something in place that is a compromise to everyone. Anybody else have any thoughts? All right. Additional public comments?
Hey, well, I don't have a, my name's Tanya at 748 Webstop. I just had a question, and I'm not for sure if we're allowed to know that information. But I know there's a law firm out of Colorado, a civil rights law firm, that has pending lawsuits against some of our police officers here in Evansville. As a community, are we at liberty to know what them lawsuits are or no?
I would assume no, you would not be,
Okay.
but I do not know of any pending lawsuits at this time.
Okay, that's all I had.
Oh, thank you. Do you have any other public comments? Any additional public comments? One more time. Public comments? All right. All public comment section closed. Our motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting closed at 7:38. Oh, sorry, 28.